But if you want to support the channel, there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast or video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications option. Hit the thanks button to buy a super sticker. You can do this on the live chat too. You can also join our Patreon page or buy us a coffee at the link in all of our video descriptions below. We are also looking for sponsors. If you want our latest advertising rates and how you can get involved, then email John at nufcmatters1892@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.
Critics attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all believe. And it feels alright where the worlds collide. Manipulation stands to make us red. What time you said coming over you. You wish it upon a star. You wish it on a star. You are, you are, you are. You fight back, it's an all-out attack. It feels like I've been taken on the world's machine. Because I want it more than anyone can dream. You look back and it's all in the past. You tell me how you live by all the things you do. Well, you can be yourself, but maybe I'm not you. And it feels alright when they come and say to you, you're the only thing that makes us all.
Good evening and welcome to NUFC Matters. It is a 3 Amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend. And it's a welcome to George, to Joe and to Mitch. Welcome to you at home. No Steve Hasty tonight, but he will be making an appearance very, very shortly. So we will be starting the show with something which we've been rattling around in our WhatsApp group talking about. I do want to say well done to the Everton fan who created probably one of the biggest bits of shithousery I've ever seen in a supporters like unification. You know, Liverpool get to the cup final. This guy text him, there we go, Tony Blue Blood. He bought 10,000 blue flares and he spent the last 4 weeks taking the blue labels off them and putting red labels on them. I hope he sells the lot. Now, this was something which I watched with interest, especially when the cup final started. And here's just a little sample of what happened. The cup final, of course. I meant the coronation of them winning the league, but how much of a laugh that was. Honestly, brilliant stuff, great to see. That's a bit of banter in football. That guy, his time wasn't wasted there, was it really, lads? Absolutely.
No, his money must have been expensive.
I mean, well worth every penny, though. Well worth every
Absolutely.
penny.
I saw in the crowds for the parade afterwards as well, the odd blue one going off there as well. It's like that. That's tremendous levels of pettiness.
Yeah.
To spend 4 weeks swapping labels as well. That's dedication to a level of bitterness that is almost unheard of.
It is fantastic stuff, great stuff. Anyway, that's in the past now. We are going to focus on Newcastle United for the next 90 minutes. And after our little conversations in our WhatsApp group, we asked Steve Hasty to record a video. I think it was that important. Oh, yes, I must remember as well, we do have another wonderful prize from Johnny Allen, who is in the chat tonight. This is another way of us raising money for Age UK dementia. John manages to find some absolutely fantastic gifts for us for this section. He surpassed himself, not a football one today, but an acting one. This is a Tom Hardy signed coffee mug, an actual coffee mug that he used in the programme Mobland. So there we go, a little bit of film memorabilia for you today. That will be obviously going to the highest bidder. If you go to @SteveWraith on X, the lads have all just been copied in on it, so they'll probably retweet it as well. If you want to have a bid for that, the starting bid's a tenner. Make a bid underneath the tweet, and we'll make an announcement about 15 minutes before the end of the show, and all proceeds from that go to Age UK North Tyneside Dementia Connections. Thank you again, Johnny Allen, for putting that in, and hopefully we will raise a few more quid. 520 quid raised last week from you guys out there, which was absolutely fantastic. Okay, so what have we been speaking about in our WhatsApp group this week? Steve Hasty will reveal more.
Hi there. Apologies for not being on the show tonight, but unfortunately
he's on mute. I might have to come back with this. I don't know what's gone on there. So bear with us. That video works fine as a video. I'll try and get him onto there. It's going to take a little bit of time to load. So whilst
I can hear him.
I could hear him as well, mate.
Oh, well, I couldn't. So could everybody else in the chat hear him? I need to find out whether everybody in the chat can hear him. If they can hear him, that's fine. All I need to do is watch the clock kick down. But I need somebody in the chat to tell us whether they could hear it. Mark Bayer says he could hear it. Okay, here we go then. I can't hear it, but I know what he says, so I'm not in a disadvantage. Here we go.
Well, that hasn't stopped the conversations that have been going on between our little group over the last few days. And I think the conversations that we've been having have been quite pertinent and quite interesting. And we thought that perhaps if I could start off the dialogue today and throw a few things at you, then it might have cause for conversation. So here we go. I'm going to start off with a topic that obviously everybody will moan and groan immediately when they hear me say the word, but it's ticketing, or more importantly, attendance at games, because that's been a hot topic, hasn't it, this week? Fresh from Man City and returning their 5,000 tickets for the Cup semi-final. We've had Arsenal fans complaining that the atmosphere at the Emirates in midweek was impacted by tourists, apparently. At the same time, Arsenal as a football club refused PSG their full allocation of tickets, reducing them by over 400. In the past, we've seen tourists being blamed for poor attendance at the London Stadium, despite the fact that West Ham, who used to get 38,000, now get 60,000, which has always baffled me. Old Trafford and the Etihad. We've had rumblings ourselves about the availability of tickets and whether tourists should get tickets. But I think from our perspective, it's more to do with the ticket availability not meeting the demand, rather than anything that's impacting the atmosphere inside St James's. Now, I don't want to dwell on ticketing per se, because we've discussed it many times in the last 3 or 4 years, and just like the rest of you, many have been burnt out by it, and certainly Mitch and Steve and myself and George, Stewie on the professionals, and the rest of the lads are probably exactly the same. However, let's not forget that Leeds and Burnley being promoted, Ipswich being relegated, we now have one extra American-owned club in the EPL for next season. And we all know that the US owners of football clubs seem to be driving many of the changes that are being initiated and introduced by the EPL. And these changes do directly impact fans. We've seen restrictions on season tickets over the last couple of years. We've seen the involvement of controversial ticket return schemes and policies that all clubs seem to have introduced at will. The proliferation of ticketing agencies and resellers, clubs' policy on reselling tickets at inflated prices, citing supply and demand as their excuse. And all of these initiatives that impact fans are not necessarily, in my eyes, for the better. Yes, younger supporters, non-season ticket holders and those jumping on the football bandwagon may like and encourage these changes. But what I call our legacy fans, and I consider myself one, mainly because of my age, I consider that if you're exactly the same situation as me, we've been through the thick and thin from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. We've been through the dying embers of Hullet and Sooners football. We've supported amiably by Allardyce, weren't they? Because that was just as bad. And often the ones being ignored. It's been us, with little or no voice. But we've been the mainstay of the club. And that's the reason why our football club still exists, because we went through all those dire times and we came out the other end. But this US influence concerns me because it's driven by money, by greed, and it's driven by self-interest. All those initiatives I mentioned have their origins in US sports, where the ethos is very much supply and demand. The bigger the game, the higher the ticket price. Hospitality at a price, that's why we have a section in St James's Park that costs £70,000 a season for 4 seats. That's £17,500 a season each. And it's full every week, that area, because those who can afford it do so. But remember the club survey? Would you be willing to pay £2,000 a season? I bet many of us said yes, without thinking, simply out of that blind loyalty that we have for our football club, as well as desire to be inside for a match. But what sacrifices were you going to have to make? And what sacrifices would there have to be made for a family of 4 if they all ended up having to pay £2,000 a season ticket? Man United are a perfect example of a club who are moving loyal fans from seats held for 50 plus years, because Ratcliffe and Ineos say that these seats are prime real estate and they see them as an opportunity to sell them for more. Manchester United and Man City were planning to charge disabled supporters crazy money simply to park near the stadium. How disgusting was that? West Ham have gone after concessionary fans, concessionary ticket holders. Why? Because the owners see them as easy pickings. And what is quickly becoming, let's face it, a dog-eat-dog world. I've noticed today that the club's advertising for a fan engagement manager. I'm not sure what and where this fits in and why one's required, but I'm sure that the club will be explained, especially as we already have a supporters liaison officer. But perhaps we should be looking at such a role, fan engagement manager, as a positive for us legacy fans, perhaps, especially after supporter services now look after season tickets, home tickets, away tickets, membership, hospitality, tours, club and other issues. Like, for example, can I bring this bag into a ground? Can I be a ball boy? Can my son be a ball boy, etc., etc. The retail aspect, the fans, the supporters clubs that are now being brought out internationally, the FAB, accessibility, access to the stack, bookings for the stack, all of that's done by supporter services. So I suppose their roles change dramatically, and a fan engagement officer might be excellent, might be just what this football club needs. I wonder if it'll expand the role of the SLO. In Germany, most clubs have 3 and 4 SLOs, if not more, but those SLOs are out on the ground and they work independently of the football club. So, you know, we all have our opinion on how things should be run and are being run. But let's see what this fan engagement manager role brings. So I suppose the question is, speaking for the silent majority, the legacy fan, let's ask the question, does the legacy fan have a place? More importantly, should it have a say in the future of the game, in the future of our club going forward? The discussion that matters, such as the new ground, are just as important to a 70-year-old as they are to a 7-year-old, even though that 7-year-old will benefit from that ground well after the 70-year-old has passed on. Will the new ground cater for all in terms of accessibility? And by that most important one being ticket prices. Ticket prices that are variable enough to ensure that the clubs leaves nobody behind. And I think that's important. If we're talking about a ground that's going to have 70, 75, 80,000 people, but we're hearing more and more about the importance of hospitality, and we're seeing prices now moving towards 65, 70 pound a match. Is that good for the game? Is it good, or will lots of people still be priced out? We're saying the more space in a new ground, the better. But if we're going to be priced out of it, it's not really going to be of any benefit. And I suppose people might think I'm lacking a bit of optimism here, but the reason for that is that I've been an advocate for communication between club and supporter as an imperative, because that's just the way I've been since the days that we set up Newcastle United Supporters Club and then Newcastle United Supporters Trust. And when I look at the Fans Advisory Board, and let's take the last set of minutes, for example, I think that the Fans Advisory Board has such a narrow remit and is too wrapped up in NDAs, carefully constructed minutes, to be seen as a genuine two-way stretch in regards communication and any influence that they might have on the club hierarchy. That's why I think platforms like ours and other social media platforms are a genuinely positive area to discuss change within the broad aspect of the game, as well as aspects of our football club. Because let's face it, change for change's sake is not always a good thing, particularly when it's being introduced without dialogue, or when that said dialogue is limited to a narrow few. Yes, by all means, cater for those with the disposable income that can have £17,500 a season for a ticket, but also cater for the family of four, the family with two, the family with three kids. Cater for the pensioners, cater for the young people that don't have as much disposable income as you might think. How do we persuade the club to not kill the golden goose with a new ground for the sake that it could turn out simply be the dodo because we can't afford to go? And that's why I'm thinking, let's think out of the box, and not just us, but I'm looking at the Supporters Trust here. Perhaps NUST need to broaden itself by speaking not just for its members, but opening itself up towards the wider fan base. Maybe that might help. Let's throw out the idea that if they were to do so, then it might benefit from an increased membership in the long run. At the moment, I look at it and I think its board appear to be stuck in the belief that it can only represent its members. But it fails to see that as the football club moves forward and moves with more worldwide interest in Newcastle United, and as that interest grows alongside success on the pitch, it's going to turn into an ever-depreciating part of a huge growing fan base. And I look back at what Mitch, myself, and many of the other lads and lasses did when we set up and established NUST as a representative supporters trust for all supporters. We didn't view it simply as a members-only closed shop. And now, more than ever, we should be seeing the importance of being open to public consultation and scrutiny, there to test the water with the club with the views of the majority, or a wide range of related issues for the entire fan base, members and non-members alike. That's why here at NUFC Matters, we are passionate to have all the fans' voices heard. And that's why NUST and the fan and FAB representatives should be actively discussing the issues that affect supporters with the club, pointing out the cause and effect when the club seems to be heading down a certain path, be it on ticketing, the new ground itself, match day experience, or the price of a pint. Instead, they seem to be simply appeasing, and that's not good for the club or members. I think there's some broad things there to do with football, but there's some things that are specific to our football club. And I think if our football club can come together and we can get things right, then that's going to be for the benefit of football worldwide. It's a discussion point. It's something that I wanted to throw out there. And let's see what you guys think of it. Let's hear from you. And let's make this something that we can branch out and perhaps other podcasts can start to pick up on as well. And we start to talk about the future of our football club and we start to think that we're actually being heard. So let's get stuck into it, eh?
Great stuff. I managed to listen to it on YouTube, which I got the gist of it. I'd already listened to it before. But Mitch, give us your take on what Steve Hasty said. Brilliantly put. Thanks for doing that, Steve.
Very well put, as always. When he takes time to think about something like that, he really, comes across in the proper manner. And I think there's a number of things to unpack from this. What triggered this was we were already having certain discussions around ticketing for a while. But then I received a message this week from a particularly frustrated supporter who wanted to know why he should bother, having been unsuccessful in every single ballot, renewing his membership. And I know many others, friends, people I've known for years, who are asking me the same question. I can speak for nearly every international fan to say, what good is a Mags Plus membership to me? Because there's no separate international benefit. We've seen this week the club had the lad from Tokyo over who was obviously, he's been given some assistance in some respect. I don't know this, but I'm quite sure he has. But then they can't actually introduce him as who he is because they get him over based on the fact that this is the lad that got interested in the club after the Pardew headbutt. And hang on, that's not sort of nice enough a story to talk around. So we'll just introduce him as such and such from Tokyo, and here he is. And immediately on social media, people saying, "This is why I can't get a ticket," and da-di-da-di-da-di-da. And this is why these things have to be managed and managed carefully and managed well. I'm quite sure he hasn't stopped anybody getting the ticket anyway, and the ticket he had came from a stock of tickets that I have for every game that I used in various different ways. Like, for example, the batches of tickets that will be used for official supporters clubs, who now can pay a £50 a year membership fee to receive their official status, but only need 10 people with a supporter number, not necessarily Mags or Mags Plus members anymore. Strange that. That's become a movable thing again. I think what the other thing that's clear is that there's a big group of supporters, and I think we represent that, as Steve's hinted at. The legacy fans, as so-called. And I don't think we have a voice, and I don't think people care too much about that voice. And nor do I think some people in the club want that voice. Why do NUFC get blackballed constantly? And Darren Curry, he should be somebody the club should be at least engaging with, and they don't even interact. And I think there's a number of different reasons for that. I think we've got a history of people inside the club who, from the Ashley years, see fans as the enemy, and are desperate not to engage in certain ways, but would rather engage in their own way with a hand-selected few. We're seeing what's happening at other clubs, and coming soon to a new stadium near you. If you think at the moment that increased capacity in the new ground is going to lead to that many more season tickets available for everybody, think again. It's not going to happen. And we're seeing it at other grounds. We're seeing, it's interesting, we're seeing the same thing happening across different clubs. Can only transfer your season ticket so many times. That transfer has to be a member. Now, it's interesting to see in terms of memberships, Man United's data released this week. In 2 years, they went from something like 250,000 members to 450,000 members because you couldn't transfer your ticket to your mate unless they had a membership number. And so that's £2 million. Like that. Doesn't sound like much. It's not being dressed up as much, but that's £2 million. And so we're seeing also all the various ticket initiatives that we have seen happening at clubs all over the country. And yet, one thing I've been pleased to see is an engagement of fans with each other on social media, not necessarily just an argument. One of the best arguments counter to everything I saw was somebody saying, well, what needs fixing? It's working, isn't it? And when there was when they were asked, well, what's working? Well, the ground's full every week. And I think that's very much an answer the club would give. It works because we've got bums on seats, and Newcastle top that list of full stadia across the country. Where did West Ham's extra 20,000 fans come from? Because they're full a lot of the time in their new ground. But we do need an ability to interact with the club in some level, and to be able to call the club to account, to make sure people aren't forgotten, to make sure that there are ways that people can feel valued by the club for their support. I think there's a lot of expat fans like myself would pay a membership just to feel like they belong. And I know that's very different to people wondering, why am I paying this membership because I've never got a ticket? And yet other people who've got maybe 7 or 8 tickets out of 20-odd ballots feel, well, okay, I've had quite good value out of that. But why is it that so many times you see it seems to be one or the other? I've had 6 or 7 tickets, or I've had none. There's not a whole host of people who are telling me I've had 1 or I've had 2. You either get quite a few or you get out. So how does that work? The club aren't willing to engage on any of it. The guy who messaged me with a query in the first instance sent me an interaction he had with the supporter services, which he had a number of questions for. And to say that the way those questions were answered, both Chris Davari and Jeff Boycott would have been absolutely impressed with the straight bat that was shown to those questions, as those questions were softly dabbed down the short leg and would never ever put the club in danger of being caught. We have a challenge with that fan interaction. The FAB has already become a little bit of a lame duck. And I totally support Steve's challenge to the trust. The trust is something obviously close to both mine and Steve's heart. We helped form it. And if they want to be, they have an opportunity here to open up to non-members, to open up beyond. Because at the minute I look at them and they're coy about their numbers, but I'm going to tell you this right now, we have more people follow this channel than the trust have members. And how many of those members are what you would call active members? Remember when they did 10-year and lifetime memberships for £1 and things like that to get numbers up at certain times? How many of those people feel disillusioned that the bought into it and they feel just like, I don't want to be active with it? And some clue to that's given from the numbers and when they've had votes recently, which have been frankly close to, if not properly in core rate, but I'll not go into that. That's going down another rabbit hole. But they have an opportunity to not just be seen as a nodding dog on the FAB, but going along with everything and telling everybody that everything's fine while the ship's sinking around you. And also not to be found implicit in any decision that upsets a majority of the fans regarding things like ticketing. You've got an opportunity to be the critical friend the club needs and open up and get more local members. Again, I suspect that split of membership is probably much wider in terms of people who live outside of the region and who live abroad. I noticed they've added a guy that lives in Canada to the board not so long ago. That was impossible due to the original mandate to the trust. But obviously times change, and as remote meetings and remote working become normal, dialing into a meeting becomes more normal as well, and so that's great. But what are we going to do with this? There's an opportunity to really represent much more than your members, and out of that, get more members. However, at the minute, it just looks like everybody is running around trying to protect their own relationships with the club. And that becomes the priority, so you don't lose that special relationship, and that's poor. I want to know what's happened with the FAB. Why did the NUFC rep resign and then be replaced by somebody who acts as a rep for disabled supporters but is not part of NUFC? Why did one of the FAB board's members resign and is now magically back on the board without any mention of why they left and why they came back? And again, hiding behind heavily redacted and NDA minutes doesn't look good, and it doesn't make any progress in terms of, well, what goes on when we run into some of these problems that, say, Man City are facing. Man City have had criticism for not selling out at Wembley. But when you see what their supporters are being expected to shell out for home games, when Man City were taking over, their owners were held up as doing so much in terms of fan engagement, down to pie tasting with the supporters' trust to see which pies they wanted sold and all sorts. And now they've got the supporters' trust and the unofficial supporters' clubs are absolutely at loggerheads with them over ticketing arrangements. And then you see, what do they call it? The Gold Plus scheme, which basically is a season ticket, but it's not a season ticket. You can only transfer season tickets 10 times. Does this sound familiar? And you can only do this and you can only do that. And the minute clubs start to use terms like fair and equitable use when it comes to a season ticket, you know they're up to something. Clubs are moving away from the season ticket model because they've seen what's happened in the States. And I'll give you a great example. In college football, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, who have a big fan base, historically a very, very big name in college football. However, they've dropped off because they can't compete in terms of the money game with some of the other colleges, because they have season ticket holders who have a 99-year bond. That bond can be passed on in a will or can be bequeathed to somebody else. And basically, the only way you can get a ticket in Nebraska is to step into a dead man's shoes who hasn't got a relative he's passed the ticket on to. And that means their maximum income is limited. And what they're saying other college teams doing is saying, right, well, that's a category A game and we can get 50% more for tickets for that game, and we're going to sell it at different amounts. And it's interesting to see how many American owners are looking at that and saying, well, this is the kind of model we would like to go to, which is totally different to the kind of model that we've got. Then we've got the government wanting to put a regulator in place. And it's still not clear what that regulator will do. The bill is having all sorts of weird shit added to it, which is beyond the realms of what a football regulator really should be involved with. And then the ultimate elephant in the room is FIFA have already said, hold on a minute, that looks like political interference with me, and we might want to pull your national team out of the World Cup, thank you very much. That's heading for a disaster somewhere down the line, and probably sooner rather than later. And nor will it fix the problems. What it might actually do is then hurry up the Super League, which, I'll tell you this, it doesn't give me pleasure to say this, but if a Super League comes along, we will be part of it. They will want PIF's money, and they will want PIF to be part of it, and PIF will be wanting part of it. For the first time today, for the first time, I've seen somewhere reference the Big Seven. That's us. That's us. And there are some betting markets now doing for next year's Premier League, the Premier League minus the Big Seven.
Wow.
And that gives me equal amounts of pleasure and fear. I think the last time I had equal amounts of that, I was wrapped in cellophane and there was a Stanley knife near it, but that's another matter. I digress. Got you, Joe. It's fascinating to see where this is going. It's important that we talk about it. It's important that we use a platform that I think is underused for us. I think most of our viewers are legacy fans. And I know some of the younger supporters see you as grumpy, old-fashioned bed blockers. I know some of the supporters have got opinions about people with large numbers of loyalty points and taking away tickets. And again, it was on the words of a board member of the Supporters Trust that ID checks were introduced because the club got this idea that there was a significant touting problem with away tickets, which there never was. That was the individual opinion of a single person on the Supporters Trust that got taken as gospel by the club and ran with. But that also should show to the trust about what they could do with a proper relationship with the club, with a level of interaction that's proper and beyond just hiding behind we represent our members, because you need to be bigger than that, and you need to be looking far bigger than that to represent supporters properly. The club have got so many things right and will continue to get so many things right under this ownership as we go from strength to strength and are part of the Big Seven and beyond. However, there are certain fundamentals that may lead to the pricing out of the ordinary man and woman from our ground that I find utterly and totally incomprehensible for a club based in its roots in the community, for a club that has a unique relationship with club, city and community. The very essence of the club is the fact it's our club. Whether you've been to one game, a million games, whoever you are, if you feel like we belong, you belong. But at the minute, and I've said this a few weeks ago, I actually feel, even in seeing us win my first trophy in a long time, I feel like I'm not valued. I sometimes feel like I'm not even welcome. And that's not right. And when I see what's happening at other clubs, and you hear, speak to supporters of other clubs over here, speak to supporters of other supporters clubs over here, there's so many clubs are going through the same thing. It's almost like it's a unified front from the Premier League that they want to have digital ticketing. What happens if we get an additional game coming in overseas? We want to be able to cater for everybody. And you're right, I would love for 18 to 25-year-olds to get groups of tickets together, because I tell you what, that was my bloody heyday. And do you know what? Football was shit. And I wouldn't swap it for the world. I just can only think what it would have been like if the football had been bloody brilliant. And I'll shut me gob now.
Wonderful stuff. George, you've listened intently to Steve Hasty and to your son. What's your feelings on this as our... well, you're not really legacy yet. I don't know what we would call you. Royalty?
Ancient. Ancient. You know the ticketing thing.
Football royalty.
Yeah, well, you know the ticketing thing and the membership thing makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. And everything that the owners have, they've done lots of wonderful things. There's no greater supporter of this takeover than I have, and I was honoured to do that lovely video for the owners when they first came in. And we've still got a problem inside St James's Park, in my opinion, where there are those who still think they're working for Mike Ashley, and that causes all sorts of weird things to happen. There's also, and I don't know if it's the same group of people, who come up with these great ideas like ballots, which aren't ballots, and they don't want to tell you what they are because they know you'll find them out. You'll find out where the tickets really are going. That's the last thing they want you to do. So how the hell can it be a ballot? You know, it's ridiculous. And then they've managed to find a scheme, as Neil's so eloquently described, by something that a hint from a member of the trust saying that away fans were touting tickets. So then invented a scheme in which they slip a dud ticket in amongst all the real tickets, and when you present it at the away ground, you've got to go round to the main office and get your real ticket to get back into the ground, having trailed through all the home supporters to get back again. It's called entrapment, folks, and it's illegal. But our clubs managed to use it to trap away fans and still getting away with it. If I had the money, I would make them dance, I've got to tell you. It's ridiculous. Turning normal, ordinary football fans, nearly turning them into criminals. And I just find that abhorrent. It's football, man. That's what it's about. And it's about people enjoying the beautiful game. And every now and again, something happens that makes it seem further away. There's little odd things that have happened to me personally, particularly at the beginning of this season, that made me wonder, well, you know, is my time up, sort of thing. But I'll cling on with my fingernails until somebody says something different. And it's the money thing as well is just it's beyond the pale that so many people and people will buy them. It's 17.5 grand a year for a ticket at the football match, and people will pay. It's not as though they're short of customers. Quite far from it. And you know, and we've Steve have enjoyed the hospitality of other fans that have their own hospitality, and just, you know, gobsmacked at what they're being pressed into thinking about in the future. You know, and they're already investing lots of money into the club. So the money things is a killer. Eventually. My notion, as you know, about the new stadium is that if there's even a hint that there might be some empty seats, then we fill it full of school kids and give them tickets for five quid. No, never mind 50 and 60 quid. But whoever listened to that. And the fans engagement officer, was that described the title? Fan engagement officer.
Correct. Yes, I've got my CV in.
I've got to say that if the trust in the farm were doing a bloody job, they wouldn't need an engagement officer because they'd be doing it for us. But they can't, because one's got its hands tied behind its back, and the other one's got its hands up the place where the monkey puts its nuts to look after themselves. So, you know, it really is quite sad. Fans engagement officer. And we've got all these people sitting on committees and all the rest of it. If they were doing their jobs, would it be necessary? In my opinion, I don't think it would. Because I'd like to meet, for example, occasionally in the ground, an FAB member. But will that happen? Will it doddle? And as Neil says, it's all written in so many pieces of legal jargon that it sounds like people are almost afraid to speak. And it's an absolute nonsense. And the other irony in what we've just talked about is that talking about the trust and its membership and what they do and what they don't do, isn't there an irony that there's now so many supporters who live overseas that they're bigger than the trust? They actually got more members live outside the bloody UK than the trust's got. And I just find that's hilarious. And what they're doing about that, they're not doing anything about it as far as I can see. So there's so many things which on the surface seem like little things, but put together are quite serious. And the big thing for me is that every time there's a major change, I see my football club going further away, and access to it getting more remote. And I've no doubt at all, seeing what's happening elsewhere and what Neil's talked about, is that the American model is finding favour. And why wouldn't it when so many Americans are investing their money? And when the Premier League and the government think American money's good, Middle Eastern money not good, because that's the way they play it. But the other side of it is that Neil's right. If the Super League comes or something of that ilk comes, we're now in a position with our owners where they're in demand, not just our club. They're in demand, and they're in demand because they can move mountains. They can change all sorts of things because they have the skill, they have the money to do it. They're going to be running the World Cup soon. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And so I'm glad Steve's set this off, and you lads have. And can I just blow me own, well, not my trumpet for once, is that when Steve and now Neil say they help to form the trust, ladies and gentlemen, they were the bloody trust. I trailed for every little village in Northumberland and Durham with them when they set it up, talking to people every week, sometimes twice a week in the most quaint places. But if there were fans there, they used to find them. I can't imagine what the current trust looks like. I can't imagine what any members, the board members look like. I don't even know their names. But it's time it had a look at itself and got back to being a really fans trust. At the moment, Newcastle Supporters Club are the only people who engage with me outside of the football club. And what they do is great. Absolutely fantastic. Anybody that sees the stuff with the boats on the Thames and all of that, that's got to be fantastic. But for how long? If they're not even talked to and they get fed up, well, goodness knows what happens after that. So yeah, it's a good conversation everybody should have. But think hard. We need to get access to our owners for real fans, legacy fans, wherever you call them, and just let's all have a go at it. Stick your head above the parrot and have your parapet and have your say, and badger somebody somewhere just to get the thing sorted out. But it's not a happy place entirely at the moment, and that's quite sad when we're going into an era, in my view, when we're going to see success we could only have dreamed of 10 years ago. Well, not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago. That's what we're facing. Wouldn't it be a shame if we missed out on it simply because somebody didn't put the round pegs in the right holes?
Mark Byers chipping in there before Joe has his say. And the moral of the story is never blow your trumpet where a monkey sticks its nuts. Thanks for that, Mark. Joe.
What we on about? I've been watching Minecraft videos while you've been talking. So about tickets. Do you know what, Steve? It is it's a fascinating point, isn't it? And listening to the guys there, because I always feel quite infallible. You've got your season ticket, you've got your seat, you turn up every week, and I don't flippantly do it. And I've said a million times, we are blessed to be able to get to St James's Park to watch the games. Until you hear about fans being moved and areas of the stadium just being closed on a whim, and remember the whole save our seats, and the Manchester United fans now that have been going for 50 years, and all of a sudden on your bike someone with more money than you wants your chair. And I always thought it was a game of the people, for the people, by the people. But I think even at the takeover, one of the things that was said, and I think I remember having the conversation about, we just got to be careful what we wish for. Neil talked about the European Super League. I absolutely agree. Newcastle United will want to be part of that. When it was happening, when we hadn't been taken over, it was the worst thing ever, and we couldn't believe Liverpool, and we couldn't believe what Tottenham were trying to achieve by pulling away from the beautiful Premier League. I tell you what, we'll be in the queue. So you do have to be careful what you wish for. We've got one of the world's most colossal businesses that own us. So they're going to be right in the middle of everything, and when it comes to money and profitability and all these words that I don't understand. And it is a real concern, and it is a real problem. You can completely see why, it gets wrapped up in PSR. The reason that I'm going to now start charging you $5,000 a year is because we want to compete with Liverpool. And, you can use PSR as a casual excuse till the cows come home. But where's the value in it? And yes, ironically, this season we've won a trophy, of course, and we're currently third in the Premier League. But if they want to charge me £2,000 a season, I want to see £2,000 a week a season footballers. I don't want to eat pies for £6 that are dog shit. I don't want to have a burger that doesn't really taste like a burger, but because it's got a black and white kind of wrap around it, they can charge you £7.50 for chips that have being stood there for 4 hours, and toilets that don't smell as bad as the Gallagher, but they're not far off sometimes where we are. And a pint of Guinness with a head on. I mean, imagine that, So, yeah, where's the value in all this? Is it just purely profitability that PIF, they are an investment company at the end of the day, we'll put some money in and we'll take it back. That's what Mike Ashley was doing, wasn't he? But he was a villain. These people are doing it and the heroes, so it's a funny parallel for me. But yeah, if we start signing kind of footballers that get us off our seats, and maybe it is fair market value. At the minute, it kind of doesn't feel like it, and God knows how kind of Fulham fans feel, and Tottenham Hotspur. They're paying more than anybody. Look at the league. Look at the state of them. So who's the game for now? Is it for the people who've got more money than I have? Is it for the people, do we need to think about the next generations and such like? Of course we do. Is that why we suddenly need an 80,000-seater stadium? And an 80,000-seater stadium's fine as long as everybody can get in, but everybody can afford to get in. At the ticket, if you want to spend 17 grand a year, fill your boots. I wish I had 17 grand a year to go and sit and eat caviar and watch the match in a heated box. I don't. Fair play to people who want to do that. But if you turn the entire stadium into that, if you have to go to the likes of Mr. Mitchell there and say, by the way, I know you've sat there forever, but on your bike up to level 7 you go, and sometimes the lift's too full. Is it suddenly a game of the people anymore? We're a working class area. We live in the northeast of England, and yes, there's some affluent areas, and yes, there's some very affluent people, but the majority of us aren't. So they need to look after us. Amanda Staveley talked about being an adopted Geordie and how much she loves the northeast and how much they understand the people. I hope she told PIF and Darren Eales on her way out, because it's important. I don't get communicated with. I get the odd email saying, do you want to fill this survey in? And I keep saying your chips are shit, and I'm sick of paying £5 for them. And the same chips keep coming every week. The lager is still warm and flat and stale and rubbish. So yeah, it's not worth £2,000, Steve, but I don't think we should be expected to pay £2,000. There's clubs in Germany, you can go and watch Borussia Dortmund for £12. They don't have a problem with it. It is what it is over there. So yeah, it'll change. I think we've got to get used to it changing. I wish everybody was in the fortunate position that we're all in. I want everybody to go and watch Alexander Isak and Sandro Tonali, because they're fantastic people. But just remember who was there. Just remember the people who put the football club where it was on the day that you bought it. And don't forget us when you steamroller us into the European Champions, into the European Super League, because at some point, we'll start turning off, won't we? We talk about Sky Sports, we talk about, I'm sick of listening to Jamie Carragher talking absolute nonsense. And at some point, I'll stop paying £130 a month for it or whatever it is. And you'll get like that with the football. If we don't qualify for the Champions League and we don't win a trophy for another 70 years, why should we pay more? It's not right. But I do think there's something about inflation. We've got to think about the geopolitical landscape that we live in. Everybody's fleecing us. Your gas bill, your council tax, your lecky bill, your mobile phone bill, everything's gone up. And again, it's convenient that football clubs can say, well, everything's more expensive. Yeah, it is, but don't price us out. And we won't have a future if there's 50,000 people clambering for a season ticket. If those season tickets are £2,000-3,000 each, you can have a waiting list as long as you want. No one's going to buy them because we're not going to be able to afford it. So yeah, let's get the right people around the table. Please, for all our sanity, don't apply for that job, Steve. Honestly, it's not worth it, mate. You think there and done that. I won't be voting for you. I like you too much. But yeah, is it about profits or is it about people? And I think that's the debate, for me. Give the game back to the people. I'm a simple lad at the end of the day. So that would get my vote all the time.
Yeah, it takes me back to probably one of my editorials in a fanzine about 30 years ago when I was talking about, the change in football. And, I was very, bit like Steve Hastie's opening gambit this afternoon, just talking about, the fears that we have about the future of football. And it's very prophetic, I think. And it'll happen. I'm afraid it will happen. And, what will happen with us, who knows? But interesting discussion. It's only a 90-minute show. I have took up a great deal of the show with that. So we're going to have a quick ad break. We will lighten the mood, and then we'll be looking ahead to Brighton. Big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. Their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to our fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel, UK Coach Holidays. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. 2 crew, driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels, no interchanges. Hot and cold snacks and drinks available on the coach. All excursions included. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And if you want to listen to us as a podcast, you can find us on Sport Social Podcast Network. We're also available on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. If you want to support the channel, then hit the subscribe button. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the like button, which is the thumb underneath this video, and click share to your social media. You could also take out a monthly membership or an annual membership at nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. For the lifetime membership, you can pay £25 and get a pen, a beer mat, a fridge magnet, a badge and a keyring and your membership card and entry into the monthly draw. Some events coming up, 27th of June, 2025, the end of season party. Beresford, Howie and Watson will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre with Joe Allen in aid of North Tyneside Age UK. You can get your tickets for that one from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk or from Woucher. No Covers takes place at the Clooney. That's on the 29th of June, midday till 3:45, and tickets are £10 from theclooney.com or newcastlelegends.com. Northern Horizon, a Blake 7 convention, takes place on the 9th of August, 10 till 4 at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Come and be some of the cast and crew in aid of Age UK North Tyneside Dementia. Tickets from nufcmatterspodcast.co.uk. An evening with Peter Beardsley and Chris Waddle takes place on Friday the 23rd of January 2026 at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House. You can get tickets from the box office 0844 249 1000 or from tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And Bad Manners are back in the Northeast at the O2 City Hall. Friday the 30th of January 2026. Tickets from ticketmaster.co.uk. And we have copies of The Entertainer's book signed by Les Ferdinand available from nufcmatters.co.uk. Okay, welcome back to the Three Amigos. Don't forget, this is up for grabs tonight. It is on my Twitter account. I've got about 15-20 minutes left. Denise is the highest bidder, 20 quid. It's a signed mug by Tom Hardy. All proceeds going to Age UK. I did stick the link in the chat earlier on, so I will do it again. There you go, and it is pinned to the top. So if you want to bid, all proceeds going to Dementia Matters, which
phenomenal series that, by the way.
Yeah, I haven't started watching it yet, but I'm going to. Great prize. Thank you to Johnny Allen for donating that. Okay, if you are easily offended, it's probably best to leave the room or press the volume down button for 5 minutes because there's quite a few tweets of the week. Start with a few signs this week. Open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Closed between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. Friday to Sunday. Yes. Beggars belief. Ladies only. No Toms, no Harrys, no Dicks. Male using this toilet will be prosecuted. And this one. Keep clear. Wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. The worst film I've ever seen, Sid James wasn't even in it. Carry on flight bag. And Chinese cock wanted, looking for an experienced cock. Cock must be clean and on time. Cock must be available to work weekends. Hard-working cocks only apply. Unbelievable, that from Wong Chinese. And this one, this is your butthole. This is your
Definitely don't
butthole.
ring the wrong number.
This is your butthole in prison. Please don't shoplift.
Oh, God.
Thank you to Jimmy for that one. And this one also from Jimmy. Elk City is a bird sanctuary.
Yeah. With a KFC sign behind it. Oh, dear.
KFC. Monty Python horseshoes available for $2.99. Got to be of a certain vintage. Definitely got to be a legacy fan to understand that. And eat here, get gas and worms. Thank you, Jimmy. Had some belters from Jimmy Wilson as well in this country, not from stateside. I wonder what happened that made this sign necessary, lads.
Oh.
And 9 fingers left. Home renovations. Great name for the company. And I caught this on social media this week. James Buckley was out and about. He had great delight in suggesting that we all went for a pint of butt cum. Not for me. And priced low, yellow bananas. They're boneless, which is great news. And remove child before washing was the instruction on this. Quite
important, really.
Made in China. And if you're wanting to take away, how about this? Sex kebabs available at your local kebab shop. My husband is taking me tomorrow for soaping. What should I buy? Margie Reeves got in with a dictionary. And Dad, says the kid, there's a beetle crawling across the ceiling. Is it Paul or Ringo? Help! I need somebody.
Yeah, God.
And this is our old pal again. I want to be a millionaire, like my uncle. What? Your uncle's a billionaire? No, he wants to be a billionaire too. Priceless. 69 today. Love you, Mum. Texas Tune replies, I really hope it's her birthday. And happy 21st birthday to my beautiful daughter, Raylan. Ray replies, thanks for the clarification, Dad. Oh, look, an air guitar.
Wow.
And ecstasy. If only you looked as good as you felt. Talking of drugs, congratulations to Bobby, successfully completing his 30-year career as a police drug sniffer dog. And a new book out by Disney, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. And Chris Eubank was on the telly last week. He's getting sick of these, though. And you know I like a Star Wars tweet. How about this for a hot tub, lads?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's that.
Or R2 Beer 2. Excellent stuff. And this R2D2 unit's seen better days.
Knackered,
Yeah. It's been a while since we've had a Bjork one. They seem to have died a death, but somebody replaced it with this week. It's Brian Ferry.
Oh, God.
And a couple of cartoon ones. Get a tomb.
Yeah.
And this one, God, is that you? Yes, my son. God, how long is 1,000,000 years? To me, it's about a minute. God, how much is $1 million? To me, it's a penny. God, can I have a penny? Wait a minute. Couple of jokes. Couldn't undo the buttons on my jumper, so tried pulling it over my head, but got it stuck. Now sitting in A&E, waiting to see a cardiologist. Thanks,
like
Ian.
that. I like that.
That's good. I've got a date with a woman who identifies as a wheelie bin, but I can't remember if I'm taking her out on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Oh, God.
And little Johnny asked for a bike for his birthday. His dad said, "We'd get you one, son, but our mortgage is £80,000 and your mum just lost her job." Next day, Johnny walked out with his suitcase all packed. His dad asks, "Where are you going, son?" Little Johnny replied, "I walked past your room last night and heard you tell mum you were pulling out. Then I heard mum tell you to wait because she was coming too. I'm not staying here on my own with an £80,000 mortgage and no bike." And I tripped and fell over today, lads, but I was okay. And go to the petting zoo, they said. It'll be fun, they said. And true love never ends. Xavier replies, "Forget true love. He hasn't been able to close the zip even now, the idiot." And when you pull your pants down to pee and the cats think you've opened tuna. And after the flight, the anthropologist decided that this particular tribe is best left undiscovered.
Wow.
Outside a supermarket this week, Kevin was starting to think that maybe his mum wasn't coming back. And kids today, lads, they wouldn't know what these are. Remember them days, lads? Remember them days?
Oh, yeah.
And also from yesterday.
Are you allowed to call it Japs and Commandos these days, or is that?
Probably not. Probably not. And
that's
school
legacy
trip,
fan, isn't it?
Yeah, legacy fans. School trips back in the day, lads. Remember, always on the backseat with your marker pen. And did you know that a piranha can devour a small child down to the bone in less than 30 seconds, lads? Anyway, I lost my job at the aquarium today. So that's how I look. And my girlfriend has a kink where she always masturbates after sex. Does anyone else have this? Was the question asked. Oh my God, who's going to tell him? Liz says. Dustin replies, "I've got this. Remember when your older brother used to let you hold a controller when he was playing video games and told you that you were doing a great job?" Very good. News headlines are in. Man hit by flying power tool. He said that everything was fine and then bosh.
Oh, God.
Oh,
And I asked an old man after 95 years, "You still call your wife darling, honey, and love. What is the secret?" The man said, "I forgot her name years ago and I'm scared of it." And here's a silent fight going on in our neighborhood. And it's getting to that sunny part of the year when you're thinking about shoes for around the pool. How about these? Very good. Very good. Like that.
Shoes around the pool. It's 42 bloody degrees at midday at the minute. Yeah, man.
And if cloning isn't real, lads, explain this. And there really was a time when men could drive around in peace. We'll finish off with the top three. Finish off with a sign. Caledonian Anal Centre.
Mm-hmm.
And the ultimate UK road trip. You start at Twat, go to Cockbridge, through Cockermouth, down to Penistone, down to Cock Alley, Fingerhole, and then finish in Shitterton. Interesting stuff. And we could do a charity bike ride doing that, maybe. But the winner this week is a sign on the back of a van. Bonnie Tyler, Wall and Floor Tiling. Very good. Thank you for that. Jimmy Wilson, Jimmy Moore, and everybody else who jumped in with some wonderful tweets on X. Keep them coming. We will feature more next week. Billy's asking, what noise did we make for a machine gun? I used to go... Anybody else? All right, very good.
Similar to yourself, I think I'm going...
What about the gun?
Come on, Joe.
Oh, man was a...
There we go. You see all the kind of things we get to do on this show. It's fantastic, isn't it? Okay. We have got 20 minutes left, so we are going to look ahead to Newcastle United's next Premier League fixture, which, of course, is on Sunday, and it takes place at Brighton and Hove Albion's ground, the Amex Stadium. It's a 2:00 kickoff. It is live on Sky Sports. All 3,000 away tickets have been sold. If you can't go now and you've got a ticket, you can still forward that until 9:00 on Sunday. As for the usual stuff from Toon Stato, it is on its way. I've got to load the video, so we're going to go with our good friend Paul Scunny Mag and his away days clip.
Hi folks, second last away day of the season coming up. Brighton away, everything you need to know is coming up. Okay, Brighton. The club do recommend some park and rides around the city. There's 3 of them, one at Mill Road, one at the racecourse, and one at Brighton University. Get parked up, pay your parking fee at whichever one, and your transport to the ground from there is free with a matchday ticket. There is no street parking. Be mindful of that. People have had their cars towed. Personally, I use a parking app. It cost me about £4 or £5. You chuck it into one of those and you know you're alright then. So once you're there, let's have a look at pubs. You've got the Ruby, which is also a hotel, and that is going to be your closest pub to the ground. That's not the fan zone. Every time I've been, there's been a mix in there. It's mostly home fans, but there have been obvious away fans in with football tops on, happily drinking. You can find that at Canny United Nurse. Further afield, you're going to be in the city. And in all honesty, it's alright. The pubs are generally pretty welcoming, but I've picked out a couple. So your nearest one that is definitely going to be away friendly to the train station is the Evening Star. You can find it at Timing Scarf Pint. There's a couple of Waterspoons, but the Post and Telegraph is a little bit more popular with football fans, and Legs Surely Skinny will get you to the corner where the entrance is for that one. If you have come into Brighton Railway Station, it's about 4 miles from the ground. Nearest station is the Falmer local one. If you want a bus in, catch the number 25 from Churchill Square at stop G, and that runs every 12 minutes and takes around 20 minutes to get up there. As you're heading up to the ground, there is a fan zone. It's mixed. They allow visiting supporters to get in there. If you're staying over, there's loads of options in Brighton. I've picked out the Leonardo just because it's on the beachfront, and then the A&O hostel just around the corner from there. We can get a bed roughly from about £15 for the night. You can find the Leonardo at Hip's Famed Gender, and you can find the hostel at Facing Actual Navy, which both seem quite topical for the area. Anyway, once you are ready to head in, your turnstiles are going to be on the southeast corner of the ground. I say corner, it's a big oval. Your what 3 words for the away turnstiles area will be drivers trying solutions. It will get to the steps just in front of where you need to get in. The stadium is cashless. And that's pretty much it from me, and I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Great stuff. Thank you, Paul. Stato's video is loaded. Here we go.
Hello everyone, 4 games to go, 4 little finals. Newcastle in pole position for Champions League as we speak, sitting at 3rd. But they play the bogey side Brighton on Sunday. Newcastle have never won away at Brighton in the top flight in their entire history. They have played 7 games in the Premier League, drawing 3 and losing 4 in Brighton. While at the same time Brighton have already beaten Newcastle twice this season, once in the league, once in the FA Cup, they have never beaten an opponent 3 times as a top flight side, and they can do only their 3rd double against Newcastle in their entire history, one in 78-79 in the 2nd tier, and one in 2021. Now, when it comes to Newcastle, since mid-December they have won 14 games in the Premier League, which is the most out of any club in the league, and only Liverpool have scored more in the meantime. When it comes to goals, Brighton are one of 2 sides that have scored and conceded at the same time more than 55 goals. They have scored 56 and conceded 55. Spurs are the other club with similar record. Under Eddie Howe, Newcastle has 27 Premier League wins since he took charge back in November 21, with 3 or more goals margin. Actually, only Manchester City with 38 have a better record in the Premier League, and actually Eddie Howe is already the Englishman with the best record in the Premier League, with 38 games, counting also his Bournemouth period, and he's ahead of Harry Redknapp, who has 36. So a big game on Sunday against a difficult opponent, but maybe the perfect time for a first win there in the top flight. However, a lot.
Thank you, Andre. Time for Toon Tipster. over to you, Joseph.
Thank you, Stephen. I'll be quick. I don't know why I keep looking up there. I'll have to get a clock one day. So very, very quickly, we are favourites. Interestingly, we are favourites. Brighton just under 2-1. The draw is just under 3-1. And Newcastle are 13-10 to win the football match. We're resounding favourites to score first as well. But both teams to score, if that's something that you have a little flutter on, that is really, really well fancied. There's big value in Harvey Barnes, Sandro Tonali, and 16-1 this week. Big Dan, if you think he'll repeat. And William Asula, what a goal that was, by the way. What a header. And what a dance. He looked like George at half-time in the 1892. He is 3-1 if you think he will score again. Danny Welbeck is favourite, is quite well fancied actually to score for Brighton. And our old friend Yankuba Minte, he is just under 3-1. So the odds are pretty short there as well. 0-0, 11-1, ones each, which is a score I don't think will be too far away from the truth. That is 6-1. Newcastle 1-0, 9-1, 2-0, 11-1, 2-1, 15-2, and the penman this week, for those who follow, is 12-1. 1-0 Brighton, 10-1, and 2-0 Brighton, 14-1. We've seen some absolutely diabolical refereeing lately, so it is just over 2-1 if you think there'll be a penalty in the game, and just over 3-1 if you think there'll be a red card. It is the end of the championship season this weekend, with all my Middlesbrough friends crying and crapping themselves. But the North East treble, if Sunderland decide that momentum is actually important going into the playoffs, the North East treble is 10-1. Keeping the powder dry, Mitch. They're just waiting to spring into action after 10 games being crap. 10-1 this week if you think the three big North East clubs will win. Look after your money. It is tight. Will Newcastle win? Hopefully. But please, whatever you do, gamble responsibly.
Thank you, as always, for that. And as Joe says, please gamble responsibly. So the updates really we had from Eddie Howe today at his press conference. Sven Botman, no adverse reactions last weekend, so he will be okay. Jamal Lascelles been training this week. This game will come too early for him. Lewis Hall, of course, is still out. Matt Targett has picked up a hamstring injury. He is now going to be out for the rest of the season, so he misses the last 4 games. Joe Linton is in Brazil, so he is resting his problematic knee, but the season not guaranteed to be over yet, so still a decision to be made on that. As for Brighton, striker João Pedro is suspended after a red card against Brentford. Kadigaloo, Rutter, Webster, Milner are all out with injury. Players that could return: Steele, Van Heck, and Julio. Ahead of our visit, they beat West Ham 3-2 last weekend. That ended a run of 5 winless Premier League games. And there is an ex-player in Yankuba Minte ready to face us. He's contributed 6 goals in all competitions for Albion this season, including 5 in the Premier League. His most recent strike, of course, came in the FA Cup on Tyneside back in March. Referee is Craig Pawson, his 4th game of the season involving Newcastle. He took charge of the 1-0 home win over Southampton, the 0-0 draw at Everton, and the 2-0 home defeat by West Ham. And on VAR, it is Andrew Madeley. So, Mitch, coming to you first.
Aye. Do you know what? You listen to all of the stats and about how we've not beat Brighton in the top flight way, and we've only won so many games and so many. So for me, we've got to focus on this season. This is the season we broke a lot of this. We've won a trophy. We've done the double over Man U. You know, this is the season that we should prove to ourselves to not let ourselves get bound up in sort of black magic and voodoo and this is an omen and this is how it always is going to be. And I think we owe them one. We owe them one for 2 defeats at home this season. What do they have to play for other than a wee bit of pride? I'm not really sure. Whereas we've got very much something to play for. And again, it comes back to if we can match their energy. And I think this is One of the things about Brighton when we played them, they're one of the few teams that's always been able to match our energy. And I think that's what's given them an ability to upset us on occasion. But I think if we're going to it with the right mindset and play to the level that we should, there's nothing to fear there. I think we should really think about going there and making another, or overturning another thing in history. You know, we've done enough of it this season, so why not this weekend as well?
Okay, what does the dice say?
The dice says, after all of that, 1-1.
And what do you say?
I'm going to go one different, 2-1 to United, odd goal and 3. And I don't care if it's off, you know, Jacob Murphy's arse. A bit like, you know, Diarme's goal down there in the promotion season when it come off his heel and he knew so all about it. I don't care. Oh, and by the way, congratulations to Eddie Howe, the management team, and Jacob Murphy for picking up their awards. And there's another thing we should break. This whole idea about, oh, well, we'll lose games after getting manager of the month and all that kind of stuff. Just go there and play, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, I've already gone for a 2-2 this week. George, what's just remind people what your prediction was on Ask George.
2-0.
Yeah, you think it's going to be a win. I mean, would you change anything, George, at the weekend? I mean, obviously Joe Willock came in for Joe Linton. Would you look at maybe would you keep the same team if you can keep it, or would Botman's obviously fit? Would you look at maybe bringing Botman in instead of Shaw? You know, because it's a different.
I'd look to be giving Botman 20-25 minutes at the end when to give him a run out, but not much more than that at the moment. You know, take it, can he? So he gets fed in at a steady rate. Now I would leave Willock because I think in a team like Brighton, Willock's pace. There's no doubt about it. When Joe Willock sets off, he's very, very quick. And that'll disturb their midfield. There's no question about that. I mean, that's why the bloke from Ipswich hauled him down, because he knew he was going to get skinned. Somebody at Ipswich will do something similar if Joe Willock's on the pitch. So I wouldn't be unhappy if it wasn't changed. And like Neil, I could see me saying last year, oh, Welbeck, he always scores against us. Oh, this and that. And well, I couldn't care bloody less at the moment because we're going to beat everybody and win everything. So Welbeck can stay in the dressing room if he's likes. He's not going to touch us. 2-0.
2-0. Okay, Joe.
Yeah, I'd take 1-1 now and not bother travelling down there. Just get out of there unscathed and keep some momentum going. But yeah, positively, why can't we go and win? Why shouldn't we go and win? We're third in the Premier League. You know, it's not like I'm certainly not going there fearing anybody. But I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be close. They are a good side. They kind of proved that when they were up here. You know, as their season now fizzled out. Probably, you know, are they on the beach, hopefully. And we're trying to qualify for the Champions League. So, yeah, the head says 1-1, the heart says 1-0. And I can't find the price for Jacob Murphy's ass, but I'd take it as well.
Congratulations. Yes, I know what you meant. Congratulations to Denise. She is the highest bidder tonight. We're going to have to draw that to a close now. £50 is what it made. So thank you for that.
Well done, Denise. Well done.
Johnny Allen will be the man who gets in touch. Well, I'll get in touch with you, and he can sort that out. Give us the address again, and we'll be able to go from there. We will finish with one of these. The Day I Met, where we ask you to send in pictures of you meeting somebody from Newcastle, past or present, and it is the Heed. Gary who has sent one in this week. And it is David Kelly. He scored a hat-trick on the telly. Great photograph, that. Thank you for sending that. I've got a few new ones coming in as well over the next couple of weeks. But, Gary, that was great. Good to see you. Still looking so fit and well. And if anybody's looking for a tour to go on in the next couple of weeks as well, we sent this earlier in the week. It's Lily Phillips Duggan Tour. Well worth a visit. She's coming to Glasgow, Newcastle, Leeds, Manchester, Nottingham, Birmingham, Cardiff and London. But that's a Duggan Tour. I'm sure it'll get all kinds of interest in that. Big thank you to Mitch, to Joe and to George. Everybody in the chat, a great night. Enjoy your weekend. We will see you bright and early, 8:30 in the morning for Three's a Crowd. Take care, lads.
See you guys.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.